So uncivilized.
Still the best.
Damn it. How does that not get old?
And it's even more relevant this week, I'd say, right? A lot more. I see, because I knew we were going to get to this. I knew we were going to come to this point. I knew it was coming with Vader. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Rule of Three. We are the Cinema Squad. I am Anthony from Fever Dreamland Theater. We have Berger Rokar here, and we have Jonathan Martinez, the man of movies. And we are like just so ready to do this. I'm hyped as hell. Don't worry, guys. I promise I'm going to let you guys talk too. Today, we're going to be talking about Part 5, Shadow Warrior. I feel like this is the one we've been waiting for in a lot of ways. Right? It's the one a lot of people have been waiting for. So we've guys, just so you know, we've been holding off on talking about this in the chat or whatever. So as usual, and this is going to be our first time like hearing each other's thoughts and views. So first up, I do want to also acknowledge the chat. What's up, everybody? Let's see, we have you from Drew is here, Eric Thorpe is here, and to everybody else who comes in along the way, thank you very much. I want to say that ahead of time. And to everybody else checking us out on a replay, thank you very much, guys. We appreciate it. Please don't forget to hit those thumbs up and like and subscribe and do all of the things.
Let's
all right.
go.
Whew. So there we go. That's my long intro. Guys, there will be spoilers ahead, and I think that's it. Okay. John, Jace,
hey, Anthony, I have been just wanting to be here with you guys ever since Tuesday night. And I'm just watching video after video after video, and I'm like, man, I just want to be with my boys. I just want to geek out with my boys because I want to be a super geek tonight.
Jace, hopefully feeling the same way about it.
Oh man. Well, I mean, you guys saw I messaged one thing as far as in the group chat, because we try to restrain from saying too much. And I brought up, I was like, I'm having a really hard time not saying anything about this episode. We still didn't, but damn, man, I really was left with a feeling of like, what a like kiddish Star Wars-y feeling, like almost like back to when you saw that stuff for the first time. There was so much to take away that even though I almost knew some of it was coming, I still felt really, really fulfilled. And there's some other stuff to get into as well. I feel like I'm about to just start going on a tangent and everything. I'll restrain for the moment, but man, super excited to be here. Super happy we're finally talking about this. I was almost willing to say, like, let's do it a day early just because, but nonetheless, I'm glad we stayed patient and curious to hear all of our thoughts collectively.
Like a real Jedi.
And I'm also totally not finishing a piece of pizza right here. I'm sorry.
I'm totally wearing pants right now.
I also totally have pants on.
Yes. So, John, do you happen to have the episode description? And if not, we'll knock it out anyway.
I do indeed. I'll put that up. I will put that up.
So let's beforehand. There we go. Alrighty. So just to get it started, while investigating Ahsoka and Sabine's disappearance, along with Carson Teva, Huyang, and Hera, Jace Syndulla senses Ahsoka in the world between worlds, revealing his own connection with the Force. There, Anakin explains to Ahsoka that she is to finish her training after her seemingly fatal loss to Balin's skull. While not surely dead, Anakin begs the question, will you choose to live or die? Ahsoka loses a duel with Anakin and relives fragments of her past during the Clone Wars. Ahsoka refuses Anakin's teachings, determined to not be held back by the past, leading to another duel between them. Ahsoka wins, making peace with her past and chooses to live. Exiting the, oh boy, that's a rough one, ethereal realm.
Yes, sir.
Ahsoka is recovered by Syndulla's crew. But Syndulla is contacted by Mothma, who informs her that New Republic forces are en route to take her and Ahsoka into custody. Just before they do, Ahsoka recruits a pod of Purgle to presumably take her to Peridia to find Sabine and Ezra. while Syndulla stays behind. Whew. That was a mouthful. I'm too used to reading Twilight Zone narrations.
So, is that
handled it
real?
well.
Was that a fan film? Was that a fan synopsis? There's no way what you just read is real and canon, right?
It was like fan service. Yep, the TV show. Yeah, I know, but in the best way, not in any bullshit way. I'm mad or I'm pissed. Geez, it's like, where do we want to start with this? I guess we should start at the beginning. I'd like to also mention that last week I threw out the idea that maybe we wouldn't even follow up on Sabine's storyline. Maybe we wouldn't even be going into like the other regions. And it turned out that sort of did happen, but we didn't get a full on Ahsoka and Anakin episode, which is okay. I guess if I had to maybe nitpick one thing, I would say, boy, it would have been nice to have seen a little bit more of them. But other than that, I'm like overall pretty freaking happy with this. Just starting, I guess, from the beginning, we should say, like, what were you guys feeling going into this? Was it like, were you concerned, like, boy, this is going to be it for Ahsoka? She's just gone and she's dead, and we're going to like say goodbye to our character? Or did you know, I think she's going to come out of this? Just curious.
It was the exact feeling of when the Avengers started to disintegrate in Infinity War. I was like, bro, they ain't gone. They're coming back. It's
weird. It's like there's some weight to it, but then there isn't, because you're like, well, it's the main character.
Well, and thankfully, I don't really feel like that took anything away from it. You know, I'll be honest. I was more disappointed in the fact that knowing Sabine wasn't going to die from the lightsaber strike than I was disappointed that I knew Ahsoka was going to come back from this loss of a duel with Balin. But no, I knew that it was going to be something like cool going into it. My first immediate thought when the episode started was, why aren't we starting back in the world between worlds immediately?
Yes.
Like, what? All I could think for almost every time I jumped away from that, I was just like, cool, we can go right back now. We can go right back.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
There was obviously some nice supplemental stuff that added, you know, and it wasn't a complete waste of time, thankfully. But, you know, man, the more we talked about last week how there could have potentially been an entire episode in the world between worlds, it made me think, seeing this, it's like, I feel like more of the episode really could have and should have, dare I say, been dedicated to that.
John?
Yeah, I think the fanboy in me just wanted so much more of the world between worlds. But looking at it just from a filmmaker's point of view, you needed those little intercuts in between them, so that second half of the episode wouldn't then feel rushed. Because within that first half, the reason it keeps going back and forth, we go back and like we get some dilemma with the New Republic, and that they're not supposed to be here. They're gonna come and get us type stuff. And if we get all that jam packed to the second half, then maybe, just maybe, it seems a little rushed. Just that arc. That being said, bro, this episode is the best Star Wars anything since Star Wars got bought by Disney. I gotta say. I think so.
A lot of people say that. I've seen a lot of people saying that, like comment sections and stuff here and there. I've seen a lot of people saying that. I want to say hi real quick. Popping the popcorn is here. And Angel, what's up? Thank you for coming by, everybody. But right from the beginning, we do essentially get Ahsoka and Anakin, and they sort of get into it. I wanted to say something because last week I wasn't completely sold on how Anakin looked, but for whatever reason, this week it completely like 99.9999 and a couple more 9%, it worked for me totally, man. Especially when they went even younger with him, when we went into Clone Wars era. I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. We got fucking live action young Ahsoka and young Anakin between that's the stuff nerdy dreams are made of.
Oh yeah, brother. What I just loved about it is that we don't just get fan service, but this digs into Ahsoka's psyche. It digs into all the hurt and overall conflict that Ahsoka's had, that we've been theorizing for the last couple of weeks, and even longer than that, as long as we've been Star Wars fans and fans of Rebels and Clone Wars. The way Ahsoka is finally explained. It's not explained, but it's more like it's put out there for us to like, I get it. I understand. Okay. bro, it's beautiful.
Yeah. They
Ultimately.
handled it pretty well overall. So like I feel like the main thing here I'd like to ask you guys, and also in the chat too, feel free. This is Anakin's final lesson, right, to Ahsoka. What do we think his lesson is? What do we think of that? Jace, is it okay if I start with you and your thoughts on this? What would you say his lesson is to his apprentice?
So like the fact that we even have to discuss what it may be is kind of part of the issue that I have with the whole thing. Now don't me wrong, I don't immediately want to make it seem as though like I had like a big complaint about the entirety of what happened, but I don't feel it should be up for interpretation. I don't feel like it should be so ambiguous when it's the final lesson to complete her training. That being said, I guess it's really not as ambiguous. I wish, again, it was a little bit more straightforward, but it's more so trying to, I think, point towards the fact that Ahsoka's just been like on cruise control lately. You know, and I think we've even pointed it out within like her performance. She's just been straight stoic and kind of one note for a lot of stuff, and you know, asking for a little bit of something from her.
Yeah.
And when all this goes down and she, you know, comes out on the other end as Ahsoka the White, that's, you notice that all of a sudden it's like, hey, isn't that what we've been talking about, right? The reactions from her and everything like that. So anyway, as far as to draw it back towards like the lesson itself, though, I feel it was more so to try and say that, hey, you can't stay on cruise control like that. You can't simply be living judging yourself for things that have or haven't happened in the past. Like particularly, I think she really holds it out against herself for the fact that Anakin fell to the dark side. Like, you know, I think she really truly believes that if she would have stayed with him, then he wouldn't have become Vader. And to be honest with you, I would have loved if we would have gotten a chance to see that. Like, I wish he would have showed her that even if you would have stayed with me, that would not have changed what fate is. I still would have been Vader nonetheless. But I think, again, it was just to say, like, hey, you have to, as he keeps saying throughout, you have to fight. I know you don't want to all the time. Not everybody does. But it's not an option, but it's not all that you have to do. Just because you have to fight right now, and just because you're a warrior, doesn't mean that that's all that you are. And you need to accept that. You need to understand that there is balance, just as there's like balance between the light and the dark. There is balance between the fact that you can be a warrior and also, I guess, really anything else, right? Enter in whatever other word that you'd like to. So, you know, in that regard, I thought that was cool. But it was the fact that I had to sit on it for a bit, and I had to kind of hear out other people's thoughts as well before I was able to come to that.
Yeah.
You know, and put it together. I don't really feel like that was exactly, again, as very straightforward in your face as it should have been when I first was watching it. But still, I mean, super cool. It doesn't take away from the like immense emotion behind the enjoyment of what was being seen. But yeah, I guess that's in totality my interpretation. I'll dork out about the other stuff that I obviously really liked. But John, what do you think the lesson was?
I would not be against a more straightforward explanation, but I will say the ambiguity seriously worked for me. I love my films when they're up for interpretation. So to see something I love so dearly, it being Star Wars, of course, being like that, where it's up for interpretation that I can think about, that I can marinate, that's what I love. That's what makes streams like this even better, because we can come here and give our separate takes and our separate opinions, and it makes things a lot more interesting and different. Now to answer the question, what was Anakin's actual lesson? Yeesh, okay, let's get into it, right? I like marinating, I like dissecting, so let's get into this. What was his lesson? I think there were like two lessons trying to be not two lessons. There was one lesson, but then I feel like Anakin himself toward the end was like, okay, now I understand where I need to go with how I tell you and show you this lesson. So at the beginning, Anakin's all like live or die, and we get these amazing flashbacks to Clone Wars. And what I get is that I trained you to be a survivor. because we needed to adjust to the times. When I was with Obi-Wan, we were keepers of the peace. And that's what you wanted to be, but you couldn't because we needed to adjust to this wartime. And now I need to train you not to be a peacekeeper, but you need to be a warrior and you need to survive. And so, Jace, I agree with you that survival eventually led Ahsoka to be on cruise control. She was no longer living, she was just surviving. That was who she was for the remainder of her life up until this episode. Not somebody that lived, someone who was just surviving. And Anakin's trying to show her, like, there's more. There's more. He even says that to her. You are everything that I am and my masters before me were, and you're more. And he says that you're more.
And I think that's the key to this. I think that's the key, right? When he says,
yeah,
you really do.
Absolutely, Anthony. And there comes this point where Ahsoka is like, I get it, but it's the fact that I am my legacy that scares me, because you were powerful, but you were dangerous. And I love at that moment, Anakin goes, oh, so that's what this is about. Let's get it then. And he goes, I'm going to show you. Boom. And that was one of the best parts of the whole show. We can geek out about it a little bit. But from that part, Anakin is giving her everything. Like, you wanted to see this, right? Look, you're here. There's nothing you could have done. At least that's what I got, right? It's like, there's nothing you could have done. We are here having this conversation. I am here explaining to you that there is nothing you could have done. And Ahsoka eventually makes peace with that. She makes peace with, like, I need to live. I need to let go of my past.
Yeah.
Kill it if you have to.
Oh, God.
Done better, may I say, done better.
Sequel reference.
Bro, and I just love the little subtle hints to other past interactions that Anakin's had. Like when she says, I won't fight you, and he goes, I've heard that before. And of course, where did he hear that? From his own son in Return of the Jedi, right? Which is why I think this is actually Anakin, because how would Ahsoka know that? Anyway.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I did want to throw that in here. I don't know.
I'll end it there. Anthony, your turn.
Yeah, so I'll go through it real quick. I'm pretty much in the same boat as you guys, and sort of like Jace, I was sort of like both you guys. I did find myself enjoying the hell out of it as I was watching it. The episode ended, and I found myself clapping to myself like an idiot. But then afterward, I'm like, well, what was the lesson? I came away with a lot of the same thoughts and feelings that you guys had. But mostly my takeaway was that this was about her letting go of her past. And it seemed mainly to be about her regrets. And because we get these scenes with her dealing with the death of all the clone troopers. And it just feels like she doesn't want this life anymore. She's conflicted, she's torn, and she just exits. She doesn't even want to. It feels like almost like she doesn't even want to take sides anymore. She's just done. I'm guessing this all ties into, and I hate that I have to guess, but I'm guessing that this all ties into why she walked away from Sabine. Yes, I wish they would have tied that in a little more. Because we get these flashes. I feel like that would have been a good place to maybe put another flash, like her breakup with Sabine, because I feel like that's been such an important part of the series so far. But anyway, so yeah, we have. I love that it showed her trauma. I love that it showed that she has regrets and that she's getting past it. So that was the lesson. It's a little foggy, and I feel like I may need to marinate it a little bit more. But I think we sort of all got it between the three of us.
Yeah, I'd be very shocked if, like, from everything we just said, if it wasn't some collective piece of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of heavy themes in here. I mean, you have war. I mean, that's a very heavy topic just in and of itself. Like that, like you have. I wonder if maybe veterans will connect to this episode on a whole different level, because they've been places and they've seen so much death and destruction, and they may come away, from this feeling, a certain way about it as well. But yeah, Jace, you're right. Maybe in this case, it would have been a little better to just had I hate to say spell it out for us, but just something a little more clear. But then I also see John's point of it. The fun of this is sometimes thinking on it and working those brain muscles.
Well,
But
are
I
you
think that
saying that there's balance?
well, yeah, no, exactly. And I think there's even balance with what we're saying here. Like, there's a way you can spell it out, but that doesn't mean it doesn't leave you with anything to think about.
Yeah.
There's a difference between
Yeah.
wondering what it could mean and then marinating on how dope what it was that it meant. Like, when you just know what it meant and you got the message and you don't have to question it, if it's a good enough message, I don't think it's like bad that it wasn't ambiguous. It still can very much make you think and talk and go on and on and on about it, as far as like how much it meant to you and resonated with you and everything like that. And I think the reason I stick to that just a little bit is because it's the final lesson.
Yes.
I'm here to complete your training. Then again, it should be like very much kind of crystal clear, on the nose. This is exactly what I'm trying to teach you. So that by the time she gets, here's the thing. I feel like maybe from Ahsoka's perspective, it doesn't matter, right? It's allowed to be ambiguous, but from a viewer's perspective, by the time she leaves the world between worlds and then is rescued, I kind of was like, I don't know if what she just went through fully justifies becoming Ahsoka the White.
Because she's in such a better place and such a much more positive state of mind, and she's so much more open. But yeah, did we connect the dots to get there? And it seems like we're a little unsure about that, but not like mad and unsure, more just slightly foggy.
I at least feel pretty sure. Like I'm
You're
happy.
pretty sure. All right,
I'm happy. I'm happy with it. And I think what she went through in that little bit, I feel like it does warrant who she eventually becomes. I feel like she eventually lets it go. I think there's a lot of motifs there. I think you guys saw it as well with like the baptism and the cleansing, right? When the water ends up meeting her, and it's almost like, right, and Christianity, like baptism, you come out pure, you get cleansed of all those sins from your past, and so I felt like it all worked for me, and what she went through was warranted for her to become Ahsoka the White. So I liked it. For me, I thought it worked, which is why I say what I say about this is the best Star Wars thing since Disney bought it, and I really think it is, for me at least.
It's still, thankfully, like, it was very successful. I'm happy to be able to say everything I'm saying and knowing that it's like, I don't know, there's a difference between if we were to start ripping apart, some of the sequels, like I'd be able to get into like why I relentlessly could say why I feel no remorse for having the opinion that I do. And it's like, no, it deserves the critiques it does. This is more so, I wouldn't consider it nitpicking per se, but it is just kind of like, it's not really a big overwhelming deal. It just, to me, could have made it that much better. Like, for example, I would have appreciated the understanding as to why they were where they were. Like, when it comes to, she falls in, first of all, that transition and editing was beautiful. When she fell between the world between worlds pathway down into the smoke, and all of a sudden we got the orange tint, and it's the, from the older her to the younger her, the clone star running out. That whole thing was one of the most epic things I think I've ever seen in Star Wars. And when that happened, that was really cool. And she, starts to remember, this is our first mission together, or like one of our first missions together. So why? Like, why were they there? What was about that mission that was like, I'm bringing you here for your final lesson with me. I'm bringing you to see this specifically because of what? And it just kind of felt like it could have been any of their missions based on the way that it went. There was nothing really in particular that stood out as to like, well, this is why we went here. And then the same thing as far as when you fast forward to the second scene, as dope as it was to see a smidgen of the Siege of Mandalore in live action, again, there was just a little bit of the part of like, I kind of wondered like, why exactly this? Not like I have any issue with it, but I'm just curious, right? Like, what was the selection or purpose of selection for this? Especially since Anakin clearly didn't choose that. He even admits that he didn't, he's like, I don't know this battle, which is great. I love that he admits that he doesn't know that. Again, it's more further signs that's actually Anakin, but it just further like the question of, okay, so then why are you here?
Yeah, so I think with the first one, it has to do with it being one of their first missions. The whole juxtaposition of this being their final lesson compared to one of their first lessons, right? Like we're bringing you to the beginning to finish off the end. There's something very literature-like in doing something like that. And in that one mission is when Ahsoka faces her first real failure of letting people down when she let so many of her clone troopers die. And that's in that same sequence. And then when we go over to Mandalore, Anakin's not there. But I think that's even more to hit on the point that Ahsoka, you couldn't have done anything to not turn me to the dark side. Because for us Rebels, for us Clone Wars fans, they were together not too long before that battle. And then here they are, and he still turned. So she doesn't have to be like, but what if? But what if? No, you were with him. You were with him.
It's a survivor's guilt kind of thing that she's dealing with. I feel like if that would be the common thread between both of those flashes, I guess, right? Because we see her with the soldiers, and she's holding his hand as he dies, and then the second time around, she has this dialogue with Anakin. I guess we really have to get into their dialogue and analyze it like word for word. But Eric Dorp is saying something here kind of interesting too. Let's see. I mean, what did Gandalf go through really to become Gandalf the White, in all honesty? Well,
he fell down that goddamn pit, man.
But there was also like a death there and then a rebirth. Any Lord of the Rings fans here?
Yeah, man. I mean, maybe in the actual lore, but in the movie, it's true. We only see like a few like minute or something.
Yeah.
No,
but,
and that's
say hi to Dan. I see Dan in the chat. Thanks, Dan, for coming by.
I guess I don't want to like jump into what's up, Dan. Good to see you, by the way. I don't want to like jump just completely into like a Lord of the Rings thing or whatever. But I mean, like, can't you say like he had like some heroic type of sacrifice? Like, didn't he do some shit like where he like, what wasn't that like the "you shall not pass" moment or something? And then he like he died, right? And then he like stopped something from happening so that the rest of everybody can continue onwards. And I don't know if like just a sacrifice in itself deserves being like all of a sudden resurrected as a damn near god, but I don't know. It was one of those where I still was happy. I was happy that we got the outcome that we did with Ahsoka the White. You know what I mean? I wanted to see that, but like I said, I wish I could have. I wish it could have been a collective. I really wish that wasn't something to be discussed. That we all could have just been like, dude. By the time she got out of there, I was like, she's Ahsoka the White now. It was more so just like, okay, cool. She got a chance to relive some past memories, which were amazing. She got a chance to have some interactions with Anakin, which definitely meant something. Like, the best part was I didn't have to sit there and be like, I took away nothing from this. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell that there was a lot of very meaningful interaction throughout the entirety of it. But again, the fact that it's like, what was the lesson? It is just I feel bad. I know we've been kind of going in a circle about that, but that's the only thing. But again, let's get into the dang stuff that was so amazing about it, because I feel like I'm
well, and even on that
one point.
Before we get into all the cool bits, I just wanted to ask real quick. So we are all probably in agreement that this most likely was really Anakin, right? Because I've seen a few people online a little foggy on that. I'd say yes. John, Jace.
I'm gonna go as far as saying I think, and I still will not try to take full credit for the theory. Okay, it's definitely not like my 100% theory. I just really kind of bought into. I looked into it a little bit more. I more so was able to find extra context to help further this theory. Okay, I think that's Anakin as the father, bro. I think I feel like that's him embodying his true purpose, becoming exactly what he was meant to be, the chosen one, to bring balance to the Force, and he exists as the form that we see him as, where what does he do, bro? He continuously fluctuates back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah. At no point is he just like consistently one note about it. And I mean, like, you could say that because of appearance from the flashbacks, but even just like when he's in the actual world between worlds part, the way he fluctuates between little flashes of Vader and then himself. You could argue maybe that's like Ahsoka's fear or something like that coming out. But I think that that's him showing that he's a balance between light and dark. And then the way when he has like his Sith eyes at the end, and then when Ahsoka kind of manages to quickly get that upper hand for just a moment, and then he like calms himself down, all of a sudden his Sith eyes go away and he looks all normal again. I just feel like based on everything that theory is about him being the balance between light and dark side of the Force, I don't really know. I mean, to each their own, of course. I like that it's up for interpretation, but I just don't really see what there would be to argue against that or to try and say that, no, he's definitely not what you just said.
I think maybe only because when Qui-Gon appeared, that one seemed to be a little bit up in the air. Just to go back, that was in the Clone Wars arc, right? I feel like I remember people saying, was it really Qui-Gon, or was it like a vision of some sort of, or a Force vision? I'm about 99% sure. Yeah, it was Anakin. John, I know that you may have to run for a second. Did you want to touch on? So do you want to touch on it when you come back?
No. I'll let you know if I have to run for a second. For now, yeah. Till then, though, I've got to say that I really think this was Anakin for a few reasons. Even though I've heard some videos where people are like so sure this was a vision, this was Ahsoka's construct of Anakin, or that the Force's construct of Anakin, and there's just some things there that I don't necessarily agree with, and that the episode itself doesn't necessarily point toward. And I said it a few minutes ago, but there are some things that Anakin says that are something Ahsoka couldn't just conjure up from a vision. I mentioned how when she says, "I'm not going to fight you," he says, "I've heard that before." He didn't hear it from her. If you go back to Rebels when they have that fight on Malachor, what she tells him is, "I'm not leaving you again."
Yes.
Where has he heard, "I'm not fighting you"? From his son, from Luke Skywalker, Return of the Jedi, when he throws his lightsaber aside and he says, "I'm not fighting you."
Couldn't we also maybe even say like Obi-Wan on Mustafar? Doesn't, I mean, I don't know if he says a word for word. I'm trying to think actually, but doesn't he makes it very clear that he doesn't want to fight Anakin. Like when they're about to go at it, he's like, "Dude, I don't want to do this."
Yeah, like beforehand.
I mean, for me, I feel like Obi-Wan was ready to like do some damage to Anakin. Like he's there and he's ready. He takes his thing off and then he's like, "I will do what I must."
Regardless, but yeah.
But we have Jason hearing the sounds of lightsabers clashing, which, by the way, they handled that really well. It almost felt like this, like in terms of sound, they were mixing the sounds of the waves with the lightsabers. And then I think even Hera heard it as well. And I feel like I know we're talking about a fantasy and sci-fi and stuff, but I feel like that to me was like the clue that like, no, this really is Anakin. This really is like a thing that's happening in another realm. And Jason he's Force sensitive, so he's simply tapping into it. Whereas if it really is simply a matter of Ahsoka being down there, she's on the verge of death. So this is just, sort of like a quick vision. It's all in her head, and it isn't Anakin. That doesn't, I don't know, it certainly isn't as cool. That's for sure. And it doesn't quite work. Because I mean, if I had a near-death life experience, you guys wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, I saw your grandpa." Yeah, and it's like you guys wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe you guys are Force sensitive. But you understand my point, right? Like you wouldn't be able to kind of chime in and be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that weird shit that you saw while you were drowning or being suffocated by your wife." I'm sorry that's oddly specific.
How do you guys feel that Hera was able to hear it?
I've heard a couple of people angry about it. I'm more in the middle where I don't care. I'm more in the middle, but I do have a little defense for it. It's not the best defense, but it's just one that makes it make sense to me. To the point
Kanan was all up in it.
No, that'd be cool, right? Nah, dude. I think it goes back to like everybody has the Force. And if you tap into it enough, you'll get something. And she got lightsaber sounds. I mean, how little can that be? That's as little as you can get. Lightsaber sounds.
But think about it, it's not so much that it's lightsaber sounds, it's lightsaber sounds coming from the world between worlds, which is like one of the most force. It's like where the force exists. It is the living force, I feel like, to an extent. And that's trust me, I'll clarify real fast. John, I'm like right there with you. I'm not really fazed by it, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those where I wasn't left with that moment after it happened. There was no part of me that was like, what? No way would Hera be able to hear that. But look, if we had to get into like the logistics of it, I don't think it makes any sense that she would have. Like she's not a Jedi. And even if she is force sensitive, like how everyone could be, I don't know if that's like an arguable enough excuse to say, like, again, but that's the world between worlds, bro. I feel like you should have to be like a full-blown Jedi, blood of Jedi or Sith or something like that to be able to distinguish that from crashing waves potentially. That's, again, I don't really care, but I just feel like it does maybe make sense to have an argument as to like, I don't know if that really is fair. And then the other thing I'd say is, if let's just say for a moment that, no, you know what? It's because everyone's force sensitive. Technically, anybody could have, if they believed, anybody could have heard the lightsabers. Fair. That also means that Hera's, I guess, in a way more force sensitive at this point than Sabine.
Well, her husband of sorts was Kanan Jarrus, so maybe.
Well, that's why I was joking, because when you were saying the reason I think Hera could do it, and I was like, because Kanan was all up in it.
He was all
like,
in it, baby.
I'm pretty sure that was all in our minds. But thank you for just saying it, because now I wasn't the one to say it.
He left some of his force sensitivity inside.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I mean, that's how babies be made.
Maybe it's a force echo. We're getting force echoes.
I think the world between worlds is more accessible to everybody than maybe we think it is, because if it's really a place where time and space doesn't really exist, it's where the force is truly one, then I think every creature in some way or another would be able to hear it, access it, is what I'll say. That's what I think, at least with the world between worlds. I don't think it's like a members only club.
No, but I think it's like it's like a skill level thing. Like, it's like, imagine like the Super Bowl. Anybody could go out there and play football. For sure. Are all of us going to make it to the Super Bowl, though? No, you got to be like ridiculously talented and part of like a good team and structure and organization to be able to actually make it there. And I even feel like that's not exactly the best analogy or comparison. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it needs, like, you have to be a black belt in the Force, I would think, to be able to, like, I think it's almost funny to just say like, oh yeah, no, like anybody could just willy-nilly waltz into the world between worlds. Like, I don't know about that.
It's the lightsaber thing. I think you're getting it. Well, what do I mean by saying that? Do you feel like it's diminishing the force? Like when we see a lightsaber not cause much of not cause as much harm, we start to say, come on guys, you guys are getting lightsabers wrong. So if we see Hera hearing things that are like that should be only heard by force sensitives, is that why you're saying that you feel the way you do, Jace? Like that like you said, it's members only club, not a members only club.
Well, look, I mean, as a whole, no. But like, there's maybe other things that she could have heard. Like, let's just say, like, somebody was calling to them. Ahsoka was calling to them through the, and then she's like, maybe Jason was like, don't you hear Ahsoka calling? Yeah. I guess maybe I could understand something like that. But again, I don't feel like maybe it's the most unfair thing to say that the world between worlds, and this is just speculation. It's like my kind of own personal interpretation of it. So it's definitely not definitively right, but seems as though it would be much more of a not as accessible type of thing to everyone. Unless you were very deeply connected with the Force and managed to find that way. I mean, dude, in Rebels, like, Palpatine's going nuts to try and get into the world between worlds because he wants to use it to like change reality to his liking. And if he's having a hell of a time getting there, that's Palpatine, so I feel like that has to say something as to why it may be not as believable for like anybody to just kind of pick up sounds from there.
I mean, I'm trying to imagine an alternate way that scene could have played out, with Jason just hearing the sounds. His mom comes over and he's like, you can't hear it. And she's like, I can't, but I trust you. And then the search goes on. I don't think anybody would have had a problem had the scene played out like that. But I feel like you do get into a little bit of a slippery slope if Harris hears it. It's like, well, hey, let's call over Carson. Can you hear it? Yeah, I can hear it too. I hear the lightsaber. Let's call over Chopper. Chopper, do you hear it? Everybody hears the lightsaber sounds. We all hear the lightsabers. I'm breaking balls up. But You get my point.
Man, the world between worlds is truly a big deal, and I understand when you're coming from. When like maybe not everybody should be able to access the world between worlds, but I still just go to the fact that the world between worlds is like it exists between time and space, and it links all moments together, and that would include moments in Cetos between Hera and her son. So that's just how I make sense of it.
And let's also remember too, there's nothing set in stone about how all these rules work and everything anyway. So it's
Yeah,
open to
sure.
an interpretation anyway.
One day.
Getting into some of the cool stuff. Because there's a lot to tackle on that side. I did want to see just the visuals here. I had like no issues at all with the visuals. I did see a few people complaining that, it was very foggy and very misty. That was what I loved about it. That was what I liked about it. I don't care. Oh, it felt like the volume. It felt like well, okay.
It probably was.
Yeah, I guess it was. But to me, it's like we're going inside Ahsoka's head. If ever there was a time for these visions to be like sort of foggy and dusty and smoky, this was it. So are you? What do you guys think about that? Like in terms of just the visuals and how everything came off, were you pretty much happy with it across the board?
Yeah, bro.
All of the
things. I don't know how people would be so angry about it. Maybe I did think while I was watching it, like, not a big production, so they got to cover it up with the smoke and whatnot. But in the end, it fit what it was trying to do. I like how you said it, like it's foggy, like a memory would be.
Yeah. No, exactly. It was. It reminds me. Gosh. And I'm not trying to give too much credit to this, so please forgive me in advance for even making this comment. But you know how we were talking at one point, guys, about like with the Flash and the CGI when he's in the actual Speed Force in that movie, and we're like, well, maybe it's supposed to look shitty.
Well, also they said it was supposed to look. What was it? The director made a comment that said it was supposed to look like that.
Yeah, it was that was totally on purpose. But again, we were talking about that. Hey, look, jokes aside, maybe it actually did look that way because it's not reality. It's like a warped version of it, and it's almost kind of supposed to be like this version that looks like you can manipulate it and stuff. So perhaps it actually did fit. Maybe it made sense. And I feel like that was very much the same thing for this. Like how it was just mentioned that you guys brought up, if there was ever to be a time where it's to look exactly the way that it did, this was definitely it. It wouldn't have really, I shouldn't say it wouldn't have made sense to see everything in its entirety. Of course, that would have been fine, but it really didn't bother me in the slightest that it was so contained. It felt like it needed to be contained. I wanted to focus on Ahsoka and Anakin and what was going on between them. I didn't need to be caught up in the whole like, oh my God, did you see all the Geonosians in the background? And can you check out like these clone troopers from like what armor type they have in the call? And oh my God, dude, there's another Jedi in the back. Again, would that have been amazing? Yeah, right. I wouldn't have complained, but at the same time, it felt nice that it was as contained as it was. So yeah, I was really cool with that.
I found myself wondering, is Obi-Wan going to show up? Is Obi-Wan?
Yeah, me too.
What a missed opportunity.
He was because in that battle.
Yeah. And here's the thing:
even any other Jedi. The Clone Wars was loaded up with some awesome Jedi, but Obi-Wan. I mean, yeah, you do have a missed opportunity element of this because get them all together. Everybody's here. Let's do it.
That would have been so cool.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you literally already have everything in place. You got Anakin in the Clone Wars armor. You got young Ahsoka. You got the clone troopers right there. And you didn't need much. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like Rex only had like one line that he spoke. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna lie, guys. I would have been fine if Ewan McGregor ran up in Clone Wars armor and simply said, just like, "Come on, let's go," and then just like ran off like with his lightsaber or whatever, and just be like, "Woohoo!" You'd be like, "Oh my God, he was there. He did something."
He would have.
Did you like? Yeah, I was gonna say, did you like when Anakin winked at the camera when Ahsoka's like, "This is the Clone Wars," and she looked at the camera and said, "Huh?" That was my favorite part.
I like that there was restraint, even with Darth Vader. For a second, I was wondering, "Oh shit, are we gonna have somebody who's in a Vader costume and we get a full-on battle?" But instead, we got those cool.
I think what they did was better.
Yeah, I liked it better too. I know that feels weird to say. Oh my god, I think I prefer the restraint. And the reason why, for me, I prefer the restraint between all of the flashbacks was because it kept the focus on Ahsoka and Anakin. We would just be nerding out if Vader was in full costume or there was some other Jedi, and I just feel like I like to focus on those two main characters. We know that everyone's running around. That's I think it was a wise choice going with restraint. I mean, the world between worlds is enough of like a huge, it's like a
playground.
huge idea. Yeah, it's like a huge playground. So like let's and who knows, we might visit it again one day. So why just go all out like right from the beginning. But,
a fun fact, this was the first time we saw clone troopers in actual costumes, because in the prequels they were just CGI.
Oh yeah, that's so nuts.
That's awesome. We haven't seen them I'm trying to think, like Andor was a different era, so I'm trying to think.
That was stormtroopers,
yeah.
Stormtroopers. That's freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So and they were designed, dude, and it looked so dope. Everything looked so dope. When it got to the end and there was the like the 501st, the portion of the 501st that was dedicated to Ahsoka, where they had like the orange on their helmet for her, as well as the blue design and everything. God, dude, that was so cool to see. And then the Maul DeLoreans.
I know.
Yes.
Holy hell, that was awesome, man. Like, and that really took me by surprise. Out of all the things that I had heard about as possibilities of what could have happened, I did not hear anything about the Siege of Mandalore. And so when all of a sudden I saw, like, it's like, dude, is that a Mandalorian? Dude, is that a Maul DeLorean? Is this the freaking Siege of Mandalore? And
Darth Maul coming?
Now, bro, you read my mind. And look, even though I am forgiving, as much as I'm like, come on, guys, Ewan McGregor had to be on call for you, right? How could it not be? Right? But it's okay. It's okay. It's even the same, but probably even more so with this. I did, for the briefest of moments, I was like, bro, you couldn't have had Maul pop up for like the quickest of seconds to see Anakin and Maul on screen together. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, again, forgivable, of course, because they still were able to do what they needed to do. It was fine. Dude, seeing Anakin with the red saber.
It's Darth Vader. It's prime Darth Vader. This is the Darth Vader that Emperor Palpatine wanted before Obi-Wan mutilated him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one other thing on that note, and did you guys feel like he was like Anakin was who was the voice actor for Anakin in Clone Wars show?
It was Matt Lanter.
Thank you, Matt Lanter. Did you guys feel like he was channeling Matt Lanter more so in this episode?
Yeah. Bro, not only do I feel like he was channeling, because like he admitted he'd watched the Clone Wars. I'm pretty sure Hayden said like an idiot, but like not only do I feel like he was channeling that for sure, but I'm not gonna lie. Forgive me in case you guys don't agree. I think this was like Hayden's best performance as Anakin, bro.
Forgive you for what? For telling the truth?
No, I didn't know if you were gonna be like, I don't think so, man. I don't know. I thought that was.
I think Hayden has become a better actor.
Yeah,
and in combination with that, he was given better writing. Say what you want. George Lucas is not the best writer.
I don't want to shit on George Lucas, but direction. But
it's true. It's true, brother. Even Hayden Christensen's best scenes in the prequels are when he's having the duel of the heroes between Obi-Wan and himself. And that is just some of the most cringy dialogue written. Don't make me kill you. But when he's giving good writing,
you guys are the prequel fans in this.
I love the prequels.
Like you guys are, even more so than me. But you know what? I think that's actually a perfect lead-in for my other question. When Luke Skywalker, a young Luke Skywalker, post Return of the Jedi, showed up in Book of Boba Fett, I think we may have had a stream about that. He was in Book of Boba Fett, right? And I mentioned like, you know what? I think they could do a young Luke show. I saw this episode and I was like, you know what? I think they could do maybe a mini series or something with the young Anakin. They pulled it off. Again, maybe it's a money thing. I don't know. I know Disney doesn't have a lot of money, but
creative thing.
I know it's slightly off topic, but Do you think that that's a possibility? Do you feel like this is maybe even a test run for a possible little Clone Wars miniseries or something?
I low-key don't want it.
Really?
I don't. I want it as a fan. No, I want it, right? I don't
But
think I want to see it. I need Star Wars to focus up big time. And I feel like Ahsoka is one of the best focused shows in Star Wars that is pushing the lore forward. I understand a lot of people really like Andor. I'm the few that did not like Andor, but Andor could be its own standalone little universe. Ahsoka is like the MCU in the sense that this is pushing us to Endgame. And it's working. And so I need to keep on going to Endgame. I can't be stopping.
Well, so what? You feel like they're not allowed to release anything that's out of chronological order? Because then you'll be pretty disappointed when they put the next show out.
Yeah, because the next show's Acolyte. So we're talking about, hundreds and hundreds of
Yeah.
years before. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I don't want them to start green lighting is what I mean. These shows, like the Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, they're either filming right now, they're not filming right now. They have been filmed are ready to go. I don't want them to start green lighting shows like an Anakin miniseries or a Clone Wars live action revival unless the goal is the end game. Which is what I'm thinking is that Mandalorian movie that Dave Filoni was talking about. That's our end game. That's what I want to keep on leading to.
I guess it's like, but it kind of feels like the equivalent of being like, bro, don't make Rogue One. We got to just continue the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, but we don't get Rogue Ones anymore. Like Star Wars continuously.
Well, we would have
lets
never
us
gotten a
down.
Rogue One. I mean, if we kind of went into it like that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Rogue One was such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Rarity, because right after that, everything started going to crap in Disney Star Wars. And it's just like, I don't hate Book of Boba Fett, but we have our issues. I don't hate Obi-Wan, but we have our issues. I don't hate Mandalorian Season 3, but we have our issues. That's what I'm saying. Like, we need to focus up, and that's what I want. I want whatever we go forward with. And if you decide to greenlight whatever, please, I just want it to be focused up under this umbrella. I want to get to an end game that we can sit down in a movie theater and cry and scream and go, Star Wars did it.
Okay. I take your point.
Yeah, I feel like doing some live action Clone Wars stuff wouldn't take away from that, thankfully. Like, take away from the end game, like the full on, like what it results into. However, I'll say this. As much as I would like go nuts, like I'd love that stuff, right? I'd eat that shit up. But to be honest with you, man, I can see why they wouldn't do it, just strictly because of the fact that, like, when you take a look at the animated series and all 7 seasons that it was, where would the story be? If they did a live action Clone Wars, like, where? You know what I mean? When would it take place? You would basically have to do just like assisted storytelling, if you will, by like having like, well, essentially, I feel like what we would end up getting if they did that would be like supplemental episodes that could technically be placed in between seasons of the Clone Wars animated series if you wanted to. And it's like, would that be cool? Would I still like to see some live action Clone Wars stuff? Dude, 100%, right? And it's sad that maybe Attack of the Clones is really the most that we'll ever get of that, but that's the only reason why, you know, you have to be able to kind of like understand when to draw a line as a fan too. You know, it's like, I would love this. I really would. And if they just announced it, you know, again, am I going to backlash it? No, not at all. But do I full blown understand why they wouldn't be doing that at the moment? Yes.
I think a better way of putting what I was saying, guys, is that I don't want Star Wars, Lucasfilm, to have too many things to juggle. Yeah. Because we're seeing Marvel go through that, and we're seeing, you know, the crap that's been coming out because of that. I want Star Wars to go through that. So I would love these like series. Bro, how cool would it be to like get a series like the 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones when it was just nothing but peace? Like, that's great. I don't want it because I don't want them to juggle a whole bunch of things and have an MCU Phase 4, Phase 5 issue. I want them to focus, is what I'm trying to say.
maybe a down the line type thing. It would be more appropriate, somehow. Even though, of course, it'd be tough because obviously it's like, oh, but Hayden is good to go right now, and that's I don't know what they would do, but yeah, maybe a down the line.
What did you guys think of young Ahsoka?
Hey, I had pulled this up on purpose because I forgot this. I forgot her name. Ariana Greenblatt.
It was in Barbie, and she was young Gamora. I'm sorry, somebody was mentioning it too in the chat, right? Eric Thorpe. Yeah, I know. But young versions of Gamora and Ahsoka specifically are very similar. So yeah, what I thought she was really great in the part. I would have liked to have seen more again, but perfect for what it was. What were your thoughts on her as Ahsoka? Was it jarring? Was it good? Was it bad? Cheesy, good, bad, yes.
I think it was a
I know
little
child
jarring.
actors can be a thing sometimes.
It was a little jarring to me. It puts things into perspective how young Ahsoka really was in the Clone Wars. Because when I see her in the Siege of Mandalore, I'm like, is that my little sister?
Bro, so okay, I thought,
but it's the right age though.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like her age for the first, like when she is, young Ahsoka in the first, scene. That appropriate age. You know what I mean? I thought that was on point. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they needed like a different actress for every time they did this. However, I do think it's hilarious that they simply have the same girl at the same age be in the first mission with Anakin and then be the same age in like a mission that took place after she left Anakin, and she don't look any different. And it's like
there was no aging one way. I'd have to rewatch to be fair.
No, dude. Yeah, she looks identical basically. And here's the thing. I feel like aging was matched up appropriately for the first mission. It would have been a little bit nicer to see perhaps like a teen version, if you will, to be at the Siege of Mandalore. Like it was totally older. Agree, she was older by then. Yeah.
Jace, I agree. I do. But let's be fair here. How old is Ahsoka in the beginning of Clone Wars? 14, maybe?
I don't even know.
14, I want to say 14. Yeah, 13, 14, I say. But so 14. And then the end of Clone Wars was 2 years later, right? Or 3 years later?
Yeah, 2 to 3. It's Star Wars time is always a little funny.
So Ahsoka would then be 16 to 17 years old. Ariana Greenblatt is 16.
Okay.
So she's close. Which means that when Ahsoka fought Maul and beat his you-know-what, she was 16, 17 years old.
As much as I love Maul, man, his track record, dude, it's like, God, he's like,
it says the Clone Wars was 3 years.
Beaten by a teenage girl.
But you see what I mean? Like, because you don't count the year you're in. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, how old was Ahsoka then by Siege of Mandalore? Just he was like 16, 17 then.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I guess that does match up. I will say this, that part aside, like as far as physical appearance and maybe noticing no age difference, I liked her performance. I thought she did a good job as young Ahsoka. Like I thought, especially in the Siege of Mandalore scene. The first scene was fine. I had no issues with it. I thought I was like, okay, cool. It was serviceable. Like, sweet, we got young Ahsoka. But I'm telling you, in the Siege of Mandalore scene, like that's really it's just like, damn, dude, she's like embodying young Ahsoka right now pretty darn well. It's like her attitude, her facial expressions, her mannerisms, the fighting style. I give them a lot of credit for. I didn't actually find the choreography for every lightsaber battle in this episode to be like the most fantastical, but I did find that to be very accurate as a portrayal of her animated fighting style.
Oh, dude, talking about that, Hayden Christensen's fighting style is so good, bro. He's really into that. The choreographed lightsaber fights, he's so into it. So when he's fighting with Ahsoka, you could see that even Rosario Dawson's having a hard time keeping up with him.
He seemed very intense, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like it felt like he was probably happy to get back into. It's wonderful to see like when actors are like, because I know people gave him a hard time for a lot of years, and now fans have accepted him again, and you could tell that like he's digging this. He's happy to be back, and I'm glad that he got this fight. It may be his last time in Star Wars. I hope not, but it's tough because you have to squeeze that character in somewhere and have it be organic and have it come off properly. This was an interesting thing Eric said. I wanted to just touch on it because it's something I noticed. He mentioned that at one point we see Ahsoka without her headpiece on, and Let's see. Is this it? Yes. So was anyone else a little taken aback finally seeing Ahsoka without any sort of headdress on? Felt like her head was naked. Hope that's not politically incorrect. So first, let's cancel Eric. And no. It's totally fine, Eric. You know what it felt like to me? It felt like when I was a kid and I had a toy and you would take a part off. You were like, oh, they look weird when you take the hat off when you put it back on. I feel bad comparing her to a toy, but yeah, it did look weird and it felt like you could keep it on. It doesn't look right.
That's so on point though.
Yeah.
It makes it very much more noticeable. Even though that's just how Ahsoka's skin tone actually is. Like, you know, if you were to see it in the animated series, I believe like at some point they show her without the headpiece on. And that's just, again, that really is how her skin tone, it just cuts and then it goes into something else. Almost like how our hair, right? It's just, you have a hairline and then your hair starts. But it does make it that much more noticeable that it's makeup, I feel like when they showed that and everything. And it was a little, just a little. I mean, my gosh, I have no issue. I don't care. But it was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I think it was more of a meaning behind renewal, rebirth, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. It served a purpose
and stuff too. When she came out, she had like a blanket on and stuff, right? Like, yeah, they're not going to show
a white blanket.
Star Wars show, but
no, it served a. And then she had a new headpiece on afterwards.
Yeah, so it was all fine. And actually, I guess that pushes us toward the end here. So she uses the ability, it's Force Echo, I believe, right? To try to backtrack what happened. And we haven't quite gotten into all of that yet, because I think that was a little bit up in the air too. The whole point of Baylan destroying the artifact was like, we're not going to be followed. We're off on our own. Let's go get on and do our thing. But we all know that Ahsoka's going to figure out a way to get over there. What did you guys think about how they sort of connected those dots with Ahsoka using that power? And
by that time, I was just like, man, I don't care what happens next, because I just saw some of the best Star Wars in my life.
I thought it was a really cool addition, man, because like if you notice, like throughout a lot of these each week when we do this, I'm always like, oh man, this is just like from back in this and this, you know, if you've seen this, you'll appreciate that. Here's another one. Yeah. If you've played Fallen Order, what she does is one of his powers that he uses in the game. It's one of his Force abilities, I should say, that you're able to go ahead and use. So when he finds like certain artifacts or whatever, he'll use that same exact ability to kind of get an understanding of the situation, like behind the artifact that you found. And it's really cool. You know what I mean? And so I love that they managed to include that in here, and that Ahsoka's got that ability.
Originally, it's actually attributed back to Quinlan Voss.
Ooh, nice.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, even better, man. Even better. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I like that it's one of those where I don't think it actually is like defeating what Baylan said when he was like, no one's gonna follow us. I don't think Ahsoka, and she even kind of makes it clear, like, I don't think she full blown understands, like, or fully knows for sure. I think she is just fully entrusting in like the Force and, you know, the will of like what's gonna happen, and that fate is like meant to play out a certain way or whatever. Because like, dude, before they take off in the Purgle, Hu Yang even asks, he basically is like, you sure you know where we're going? She's like, no. And he's like, what? And she's like, no, but I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I feel like, but that's it's all gonna work out or whatever. So in other words, I feel like it's like when someone says, I sense a disturbance in the Force, right? I feel like she felt like she got a good vibe that's like, you know what? I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I have a gut instinct.
You know what? That's what she should have said, because we get that said before. I feel a great disturbance in the Force. She should have just went, I feel a great vibe in the Force.
Well, also there's the fact that it is silly, but like, yeah, she doesn't know where they're going, whatever. There's always a silly part of me, like, you know, you guys could just crash into an asteroid or something on the other end of the galaxy. That would be, see, but I'm so fucking cynical. That's why I if I was sitting in that ship, I'd be like, no, we need to know where we're going. Please ask the whale where we're going.
Yeah, didn't you just ask the whale if we can ride it? You can probably ask where it's going.
Yeah.
Also, why did they I mean, granted, right? Like, I get it. Maybe it's more, you know, it's comfy, I guess. But sarcasm aside, like, why the biggest Purgle that was there? Like, wouldn't any of the Purgles work? They're all fucking humongous.
But I want the big one, mommy.
Well, but I just thought that was hilarious. Where it's just like, and then also here's the thing: why couldn't Hera come with?
I'm trying to think of the circumstances.
I think she wants to. She knows that she's about to be stripped of general, and she's like, oh, like,
wouldn't that give her all the more reason to go?
Yeah, just to sort of like put that off.
You know, if like like, oh shoot, my role as general is about to be up. I'm about to be, my rank is gonna just be stripped away from me.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Screw it. Let's just go find Ezra and Sabine.
I agree. Yeah, forget what I said. I agree, because even at the end, it's like, yeah, I don't think Jason's ready for intergalactic time traveling, and I'm like, you just sent him to like almost die. Because what if Balin and Shin and Elspeth were still there? He would have died. And guess what? He almost died when they jumped into hyperspace. You horrible mother. What would Kanan think?
Hey, somebody, I don't know what video it was. I think it was one of the cool Easter egg videos on one of the YouTube things, but nobody else watched anything else on YouTube other than but I did see an Easter egg thing that supposedly there's a Kanan photo in Hera's. See, I say a good joke, then I talk over it. I need to shut the fuck up.
No. Did you see Eric's comment?
Oh, Eric's got. Oh, let's see. I guess size. Hey, there we go. I guess size matters to Ahsoka.
Big whale.
Oh God.
Okay. To answer your question, Anthony.
But what the hell was I saying?
To answer your question, though, Anthony, I have seen the little Easter egg of Kanan. He's like in the cockpit, and people say it looks like Freddie Prinze Jr.
Dude, could you imagine how like disappointing it'd be? It'd be like, hey, Freddie Prinze, like we want you to come by to dress up as Kanan. Be like, no way, am I going to be in a show? No, we just need you for a picture in the background, bro. Take it easy.
And if you don't want to do it, we'll just Photoshop it. So
we'll just use the animated version, bro. We don't.
Hey, this is gonna be really nerdy. What do you guys think,
Brian? What's up?
The mural. Hey, the Dragon movie guy. Thanks for coming by. Hey, he's probably happy because this was a Sabine free episode.
Yeah.
And as I recall, he's not a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what were you saying about the mural, Anthony?
Oh, well, it's the animated version. Would you guys have preferred a more realistic version, or are you happy with the animated version? I know this is a bit dated, but I feel like I meant to ask that like 4 weeks ago. So now I'm going to ask it now since it just popped up in my phone.
I think it fits. It's supposed to be like art, like Sabine's art graffiti, you know what I mean? Yep. So it seems very much appropriate that it would be more cartoonish.
Yeah.
What if at the very end of this series, Sabine gets a television deal to animate a show about her journeys and adventures, and they call it Rebels?
And that's what we were seeing.
As like a watchable show within the Star Wars universe.
Getting very meta.
Holy hell. That'd be ridiculous. That would be just ridiculous, man.
Oh, we didn't even touch on the fact that they mentioned Leia in this episode.
Yeah. Any straight points. That was a cool little mention. Do you guys think we're gonna maybe see a hologram or something, or of Leia, or that's it? We're just getting the mention.
No, I think
the mention.
I'm happy with the mention. I think they're gonna save the big three for the Dave Filoni Mandalorian movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be quite the shocker if she were to pop up. And I do think, I'll put it this way, if she were to pop up, then I'm gonna call that it would be a recast. Like I don't think they're going like like the way that they did with CGI. I don't think they would be doing that. Yeah, really? Don't get me wrong. I could totally be wrong here, but I think if they are gearing up to make it so that Luke, Han, and Leia could actually be a part of the Dave Filoni movie, I don't think that they want to spend that much of the budget making 3 different CGI main characters. So I feel like they're gonna bring back Alden Ehrenreich as young Han. I feel like they're gonna recast Leia, and I feel like they're gonna bring in somebody else as young Luke. I mean, again, I could be so like I'm not saying I'd be completely up for it unless they get Sebastian Stan. They need Sebastian Stan as young Luke.
We're all thinking of it. Yeah. So.
And don't get me wrong, it's not like I like Alden Ehrenreich more than Harrison Ford as Han Solo, and I would rather just see like what we know of those characters as. But it just wouldn't shock me, man, because honestly, like, think about it. Like, think how much of the budget of that film would need to be dedicated just to those 3 characters' faces looking good.
And isn't it amazing that we live in a time now where we've seen all three of them, like young versions of them as CGI? We've just seen Harrison Ford recently in the latest Indiana Jones movie, so we have a rough idea of what Han Solo might look like. We've seen Leia before. And I don't know if you guys are like me. You may even check around online. There are people who also like fan edits. They go in to and they tweak these things, and then they put up their versions of the characters just to make them look even better. I think it is possible, but I almost feel like, man, if you just recast, you get that humanity. You get a fresh player, and they could just do their own thing. It's when you grow up with these characters, it's tough to deal with that in a way. But like, I don't know, I dug Solo, and I got into that performance. So there's a couple people saying some interesting things here. Dragon Movie Guy is saying, I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but why is she taking her only surviving son into a war zone again? Because Star Wars. That would be the answer.
We got a new viewer.
Oh, General, I love the picture, man. That is such a great profile picture. Thank you for being here.
By. Yeah, much appreciated. Let's see what else. We have some other fun stuff here. Eric, I just don't like Jason. LOL. No offense, Jace. I know your name is just one letter away from his.
Hey, no worries, man. Actually, that's right. I have a huge issue with all Jasons because they tend to sometimes go by Jace. I'm just joking. No, but that is always funny. I thought that the spelling of it was ironic. Like, I've never seen Jason spelt like that before. So, and it is weird. Whenever I hear the name said in the show, for the briefest of moments, I'll be like, oh, yeah, no, okay. Because, right, it's like just close enough, but obviously not it. And no, I mean, he's a kid, man. He's a kid. Could they have perhaps gotten a better kid? Maybe, like probably. But do I think he's serviceable. I don't think that kid is going to continue to play Jason throughout the entirety of, like, I think eventually.
You don't know, though.
No, that's true. Right. I could be, oh my gosh, they might want to go ahead and be like, well, since we've kept everybody else for every role forever.
There's not a big time jump if we move forward.
True.
It's going to be real time.
Yeah, exactly. So unless they want to do, unless they wanted to like
make him black.
Yeah. What?
Oh, never mind.
What? No. I was gonna say something about like a time jump for like a potential second season that, like, maybe age him up a little bit or something. But yeah, I don't know. That was.
Since we're at the end, can we jump around a little? Because I still want to geek out on like a few things.
Yeah,
please. Head out. I gotta say, I really liked that the way that Ahsoka was able to turn Sith Anakin or Darth Vader back to the light side was to do the very thing that Luke Skywalker did to turn Darth Vader back into Anakin Skywalker, which was throw away his lightsaber and choose to live and not fight his
homages.
Ooh, bro, I loved it.
Did you, since you're pointing out that moment,
like poetry, it rhymes.
Did either of you guys catch this? And I don't know. Like, I didn't watch the episode again after seeing this video, but if anyone's aware of Star Wars Theory, shout out Star Wars Theory. It's just the name of his channel. And he was breaking down this most recent episode, and he mentions that when Ahsoka gains the upper hand on Vader, I guess, right, in this case, for a quick moment, that her eyes turn Sith yellow or Sith red or whatever. Yeah. And then, like, for just the briefest of moments, then it goes back. And he showed like a screenshot of it. Now, do you guys think that it was actually like Sith eyes, or do you think that it was just literally like I don't want to sound ridiculous, but like the shading of the light or reflection of light from the red saber directly in her face?
I think it's how close she could have gotten to becoming her master.
Yeah.
Like her master.
I agree. I think that they just want to at least hint that, like, this darkness could be there too in Ahsoka. Doesn't mean she's gonna go dark and Sith and all of that, but I don't know. I think they were pushing that. Yeah.
Do you think they're trying to showcase that she's capable herself of using both? Like being balanced and being able to use, like, kind of tapping into the dark side when necessary and not letting it control her.
Jeez, I feel like every Jedi.
That's literally what happened.
I mean, you know, yeah. So I mean, like, I wonder if that's supposed to like allude to what's to come. If like she's not like she's gonna all of a sudden like be, you know, using dark side shit like electricity coming out of her hands or anything, but that, you know, that hey, look, like sometimes anger can be a good tool. Just don't let it get the better of you, because look what can happen.
Yeah.
I think if anything, that even that little bit just gives her character a little bit more like humanity, but like it's she's letting out a little emotion. I love that whenever we see that from Jedi. Even when we see Obi-Wan after Qui-Gon's been killed and he blasts out of those force fields and just goes at Darth Maul. That's all rage. That's all like hate and anger right there from Obi-Wan. And we're not necessarily supposed to be seeing that from a Jedi, but man, I love when they do that. But then the Jedi have enough restraint and power to pull back and get themselves collected. And I think Ahsoka's a good example of that too. Not to go way off base, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's what that little moment was hinting at. I love little moments like that because they lead to awesome little fun discussions like this.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You're making me want to go back and watch the fight between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Maul.
Did you guys notice when Anakin turns into Vader and starts that fight with younger Ahsoka before she gets kicked into the fog? It's the same musical notes as Duel of the Fates.
Oh, didn't notice that. I thought I know. I'd have to rewatch again. Did they do a little merging with James Earl Jones audio as well too?
Yeah, they did. Okay. Yeah,
like a robotic twinge.
That I did notice. But the music I didn't pick up on. Music, for whatever reason, with a lot of TV shows and with a lot of TV shows and films, I have to see it again. I don't always catch up. I don't always catch the score as much on like a first viewing.
They have short clips on TikTok or on Instagram if you guys end up. But yeah, that moment when Anakin says, "Oh, so that's what this is about," and he goes and he ignites his red saber. From that moment on into when he kicks her into the fog, listen to the music. It's Duel of the Fates.
Nice. Okay. That is awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I guess before we start heading out here, we're pretty much just about done. There is a little back and forth in the chat. I noticed some people were happy with the look of young CGI Hayden Anakin, and some people weren't. We mentioned earlier, guys. I think we were all pretty much happy with it. I'm kind of picky with that shit. I really am. I was pretty much on board. I thought Anakin looked best when they went back even further. I thought that looked great when he had the different hairstyle. I thought all of that looked good. He was in the Clone Wars armor. Both of you guys were pretty much okay with the CGI for the most part.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it looked better than how he looked in Obi-Wan. I thought it looked better than the last episode, which I thought was kind of surprising that, you know, to notice that much of a distinct difference from episode to episode. Like, it almost reminded me, not so drastically, but like how we saw Luke at the end of Mandalorian season 2 to when we saw him in Book of Boba Fett. It was like, damn, he looks way better in Book of Boba Fett. You know what I mean? So again, it wasn't that horrible in episode 4, but it was noticeable, right? It never distracted me here. I never paid much attention to it. I didn't feel like it was like a glaring detail. Do I still think that just Hayden is thankfully one of those actors that still looks like he's in his young 20s? Like, yeah, but you know, they managed to make it work here. I actually don't really have an issue with it.
Yeah, same here. It's funny how that last snippet of episode 4 looked worse than the entirety of episode 5, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Truly.
So we're hyped for next week, episode 6, right?
Ooh,
yeah, which is go ahead, Jace.
Well, this just because it kind of leads into this. Do we think that this is I've heard a lot of speculation from people that this isn't the last time we're going to see Anakin. So I was curious what you guys thought, because there's some lines of his from the trailer that have not been said in show yet. And people are either speculating, well, sometimes they put stuff in trailers that isn't in the final cut of things. Yeah. But people are also saying maybe this isn't the end of everything. I mean, the very last little bit that we get for Anakin talking to Ahsoka is he says, "There's hope for you yet." But you notice, like, I don't know, it doesn't really sound like a closing statement. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't really like, all right, cool, your training's been completed. Not like he would have to say that word for word, but you get my point. Like, it's not really a definitively closing statement. There's hope for you yet. And then just kind of leaves things off. So I almost wonder, I don't think she's going to dive back into the world between worlds again, because I doubt she's going to have another near-death experience. But I do feel like maybe him as a through the Force, whether it be just just his voice, or even if he pops up as a Force ghost. But I'm not too against that. I think that there's a chance we might see him again. What do you guys think?
100%. I think we're going to see Anakin again, even when she gets rescued out of the ocean and she's being pulled into the ship. There's a small whisper of Ahsoka. And right after is followed by Ahsoka going, Anakin, Anakin. Yeah.
Didn't catch that.
Maybe we'll get a blue sparkly ghost Anakin just to sort of seal the deal and bring everything to a nice close, or even a voice. I'd be happy with a voice. I hadn't even considered that we could see him again, but that's good to hear. Over on Reddit, I saw that from the scenes in the trailer, the only thing left now that's left is is Thrawn. There's where Thrawn is walking toward the camera, and I don't know, I feel like there was something else too, but Thrawn being a big deal. If Thrawn shows up in the next episode, that means we'll get Thrawn for 3 episodes as opposed to just the last one, which is something we were all kind of worried about.
Yeah.
Do you think we're getting Thrawn in the next episode? I think it's safe to say that's a possibility, right?
Maybe at the end.
You still think at the very end of the next episode? So we have episode 6, 7, and 8. Just to be clear.
May I boast for just a second here?
Yeah, boast away.
My theory come episode 3 was that this is going to be a trilogy, and episode 3 was the beginning, 4 the middle, and then this was the end. This is what I call the Cetos trilogy. The ending of this episode was such an amazing closing bookend to the Cetos trilogy, and now episodes 6, 7, and 8 are going to be the next trilogy.
Okay, so almost like how they structured Clone Wars back in the day with 2 episode or 3 episode story arcs. That's sort of what we're doing here, and I think Rebels even did that too, right? Jace,
at times,
think?
Yeah, there was a couple of times where they had 3-4 episode arcs or something like that.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that's definitely something that we're on the precipice of. I think, man, that we're probably going to get Thrawn and Ezra next episode.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see. All right.
That's because here's the thing. You got to take this into consideration. Does it make sense for them to hold off until the very tail end of everything? Yeah, of course. But they're not trying to just be like, okay, and here's Thrawn and bye. Okay, and here's Ezra and bye. They've been hyping up that they've been trying to find these characters for quite some time now. I feel like the intention and purpose is not for you to spend forever with them, but also not to get just a glimpse of them. I feel like we are intended to meet back up with Ezra and to try and understand his connection and rapport built up with Sabine. I do feel like we are going to actually let there be enough screen time involved to know what Thrawn is up to, not just simply Thrawn's here and he's a bad guy and we should be worried. I feel like it's going to actually let us have a root of understanding of this is what's been going on since they've been gone. Maybe a condensed version of it, and maybe they won't be the ones to entirely verbalize it themselves. But I don't really think we're just going to get light cameos for the rest of this. Maybe I agree with John's guess that maybe until the end of this next episode, that all of a sudden we kind of stumble upon, again, one or both of them. But that by the time that they do make more of an appearance in episodes 7 and 8, I would speculate that there's going to be a decent amount of them. I would guess that they would be just as main characters of those episodes as Ahsoka and Sabine and Baylan potentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just side characters.
I agree.
It sort of has to be, right? Because we have Ahsoka now has hit the point where she's Ahsoka the White. She's off on her journey now, and she's in it now. We could follow up with Hera back, with the New Republic. But I don't know how much more story is left there to tell. So it almost feels like we sort of just have to dive into some of that stuff now. Yeah, we might just get Thrawn the last minute of the episode, so that would leave. I'm just trying to figure it out. That would leave episodes 7 and 8 to pretty much really dive into that stuff. If they don't, I don't know where else we'd be going. It would be a side quest or something. The whale lets them out early, and I just I don't, and they have to go and do something first to get to the other. But don't do that. Let's just get to Thrawn and Ezra at this point.
Yeah, now with the last 3 episodes, you can't pull some stuff like that.
Was this your favorite episode so far of Ahsoka?
Huh.
Easily?
Yeah.
Last
It
week
is-
was my favorite episode, and now this week is replacing it. So now I'm feeling like a total Star Wars nerd because like last week was really good, but now this week was even better. But last week was still really good. But blah 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 blah. Guys, any final thoughts before we head out?
Let's see.
Man. Also, my favorite episode. I've seen some people saying that they were like having to decide between last week and this week. I'm like, I don't even understand how it's a discussion. Like this one was so much better. I'm right there as far as I would say that this is easily very close to the end of Mandalorian season 2. Like the way that made me feel as a fan and like everything it brought together. I thought that was like at the time the best thing Disney had done with Star Wars. And now I definitely feel like this is easily taking that spot at this point. You know, I want to give, of course, like a lot of credit to where it's due for other things that have gotten close. But man, to see live action Clone Wars stuff, Hayden in the Clone Wars armor, him with Ahsoka in live action, and like in them just bleeding into it so perfectly. Like it just felt so real. It really felt like you ripped them straight out of animation into live action, and that is so respectable and commendable that they were able to make that work. So no, I mean that just final thoughts is like, though there were the couple of things that I started off with of just like just general thoughts but not really complaints, there is so much more to be positive on here, and I'm relieved and excited to see that across the board. It seems to be like a collective that most people are positive on this episode. And thank goodness, man, like Star Wars deserves this at this point. I am so sick and tired of everyone just being so quick to shit all over everything that they're trying to do. And don't get me wrong, when they don't do stuff well, they deserve to be shit on, you know? But at the same time, like with this, I noticed so many people coming out the gates so quickly. Episodes 1 and 2 dropped, and people are already like, no, this series ain't it. It's not going to save Star Wars. It's ridiculous. Don't be so quick to judge, you know, like this is definitely something where could it still crash and burn potentially? I guess so. But even if it does, it gave us this. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. Agreed. Totally. John, any last thoughts or?
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring this back around. Cause I know earlier in the stream, things were happening on my end. So I was like, my mind was all over the place. This episode of Ahsoka, again, is one of, if not the best Star Wars thing since Disney acquired the rights to Lucasfilm in 2012. Man, it is everything that I needed Star Wars to be. Not only in the aspects of fan service, but as a film fan, as a man of movies, I need it to be good. I need the execution to be well. I need to judge it by its own merits, and it needs to stand solid. And I'm happy to say that it did. Dave Filoni did a heck of a job directing this, writing the script for this. Dave Filoni is truly, Jace, you said it, George Lucas reincarnate, right? Or something like that, you said?
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
I would say even better. I know he's the one that created it all, but Dave Filoni's perfecting and adding so many things to it. The aspects with Anakin and Ahsoka, those are obviously the best parts of the episode. That's where I get so much of that meat. And even though there wasn't a lot of questions just plainly answered, I love the ambiguity. I love when TV shows and movies can get me to think and interpret my own meanings behind what was happening. And I'm all for that. I love it. I love it. I truly love it. And I gotta say this, Jace, in a school year, the final lesson is always the hardest one to understand.
There we go.
That's fair. I don't know if anyone walks out of school being like, you know, I don't know what my last lesson was though, but that's fair. That's fair.
Well, Ahsoka did. We just didn't.
No, yeah, we were
Yeah,
happy.
clearly she did. Clearly
hell out of
she
school.
came out of it knowing exactly what she needed to be. So that's a fair way to put that there.
Awesome. Guys, this was a great chat. A lot of fun. I think we covered the hell out of this episode. And the episode, I'm grateful, man, because it gave us a lot to love, gave us a lot to discuss. I want to say special thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys, I'm reading your comments. I'm checking it out. I'm so thankful that you guys are here. General Grievous, I feel like that's a new face. So thank you for coming by. Appreciate it, man. And that's it, guys. Can't wait till episode 6. We will see you same time, same place next week. All of that.
Yeah. Maybe.